The Ministry of Health says it has released an amount of 1.5 million Ghana cedis to 3 psychiatric hospitals in the country.
The release comes as the Accra Psychiatric Hospital says it has been compelled to halt new admissions of patients over debts the hospital owes its food suppliers. Here's Maxwell Agbagba's report.
The hospital has been in the news for weeks over a 4.2 million Ghana cedi debt it owed its food and medical suppliers. The inadequate food and medical supply pose danger to staff of the hospital as they do not have enough to cater for the inmates. And member of the hospital's communication team, Emmanuel Fibri, says the premier psychiatric hospital has been running on donations. He indicated the 1.6 million Ghana cedis the Ministry of Health promised the hospital is yet to hit the accounts.
Just as you've rightly put it, we were here when the Honorable Minister came around with his team and went on and gave us those assurances that looking at the impact the financial situation actually having on us, he's going to ensure that they work things out immediately, so we'll get some funds running. But we're hoping, as he said, immediately they will bring the money to us. And it's over a week now that we've not gotten the money yet.
In a sharp rebuttal, however, the Ministry of Health says it has disbursed an amount of 1.5 million Ghana cedis to 3 psychiatric hospitals in the country. This was revealed by the Public Relations Officer of the Ministry, Tony Goodman.
I'm aware we've sent 1.5 million actually to the Mental Health Authority to be sent to the psychiatric hospitals across the country. The 3 actually, as I speak to you, the money has actually gone to the various accounts units. So it's not true that they have not received the money. Maybe at the time we were talking to the communication team, they did not cross-check their facts before commenting on the same issue. So I believe that will be a miscommunication gap on the part of the communication team. We have actually sent the money.
In a related development, some nurses at the hospital are worried over delays in the payment of their salary arrears. The Controller and Accountant General's Department in October last year released a little over 700,000 Ghana cedis as payment for outstanding salary arrears owed some striking psychiatric nurses. 10 months after that monies were released, some psychiatric nurses are yet to receive the arrears. Agnes McDogby is one of the affected nurses.
Some of my colleagues have been paid, but mine and some are not yet in. Basically, they pick them at random. That is how it happens. So my forms wasn't picked. Until date, it has not been paid. Another form came in that we should fill it and then they'll start processing it. That was around in October. We did the same thing and then send it to them. Yet, so the money is not yet in. They are supposed to pay my 9 months. Basically, it's very difficult. You know, living in Accra here is very, very difficult because the hospital is not providing you with any transportation, accommodation. Everything depends on you. So with the money not coming in, it's not helping. You have to borrow money from banks, from your family, and we are of age. You can't go to your family for money. I want money to go to work. I want money to feed. It's not fair.
The Health Ministry PRO Tony Goodman, however, says government is doing everything possible to make sure the outstanding arrears are paid.
You submit the supporting document to your account session. It goes to the agency. The agency will bring it to Ministry of Health, who will send to Finance. Finance take the same to Ministry of Auditor General. Auditor General will finish, submit it back to Finance. Finance will submit it back to us, and then we will now inform the institution. So you can see clearly that it's not 2 or 4 days or 1 month issue. And clearly, you are not dealing with 4 or 5 people. Thousands of names, because you are dealing with promotion, you are dealing with new entrants as well. So that will happen. It's not as if somebody is working and is not being paid anyway. But let me use this opportunity to also appeal to any body who actually has suffered anything because he or she has not been paid these arrears, that we are working to make sure that this arrears is paid. We just waiting for the various institutions to finish their auditing process and verification and submit the document for us to pay.
Maxwell Agbagba reporting for Joy News.
An Accra-based legal practitioner has filed a writ at the Supreme Court seeking to enjoin the president from granting the Munte 3 pardon. Elik Plim Agbamava wants the court to stop President John Mahama from considering a petition brought to him by lawyers of the 2 radio panelists and a show host. The petitioners are asking the president to invoke his powers under Article 72 of the Constitution and grant Messrs. Alistair Nelson, Godwin Akogan, and Salifo Masi, alias Mugabe, pardon. The 3 are serving a 4-month prison term for threatening to kill judges in the country. Supporters of the governing National Democratic Congress and government appointees describe the sentences as excessive and thus petitioned the president to grant them pardon. A suit filed on Monday, however, by lawyer Agbamava is seeking to prevent the president from freeing the 3 contemnors. It says, on a true and proper interpretation of Article 72 and 296 of the Constitution, the exercise of the power of prerogative of mercy ought to be governed by regulation that set out in an open and transparent manner the grounds and requirements for the submission and consideration of applications for pardon to ensure certainty, consistency and fairness in the process that leads to the grant of pardons. And we still have to remain at the court as an Accra High Court presided over by Justice Anthony Yeboah has dismissed a suit filed by suspended chairman of the New Patriotic Party, Paul AFOKO, challenging his suspension from the NPP.
Mr. AFOKO dragged the NPP to court in December last year, claiming that his suspension was not in tandem with the party's constitution. Justice Anthony Yeboah, in his ruling, said the suspension of Mr. AFOKO was lawful, just and fair. Joseph Akable was in court and came through with the following report.
Heavy security presence at the new court complex hours before the judge gave his ruling. Supporters of the suspended chairman were present at the court wearing shirts bearing images of Paul AFOKO. Justice Yeboah disagreed with Mr. AFOKO's claim that the disciplinary committee failed to utilize the appropriate procedure to suspend. Justice Yeboah also said the claims of bias and conflict of interest leveled by Mr. AFOKO against Alhaji Abubakar Rahman, Professor Michael Kwe, and Ama Buzia, who served as members of the disciplinary committee, was not proved by the plaintiff. Mr. AFOKO had argued that Alhaji Rahman had missed 2 proceedings of the disciplinary committee, thus not having full details of the matter, which would have aided him in contributing to the findings of the disciplinary committee. He also accused disciplinary committee members, Professor Michael Kwe and Ama Buzia, of bias and conflict of interest because they are members of the Council of Elders that had earlier attempted to have the disciplinary committee suspend him. Speaking to the media after the ruling, lawyer for NPP Godfred Dami described the ruling as a victory for the party.
He can focus the campaign without any distraction from any protest. And I would also urge that all the members of the party, the few who were behind Mr. AFOKO, now rally behind the flag bearer and focus on the main point. The main point, of course, is to capture power from the NDC. And that is what must be done. And all these unnecessary bickerings and infightings and whatever, and necessary distraction, if I may say, by the final frivolous actions as this. What is this? If you listen to the judge himself made reference to the point that political parties must be composed of faithful and loyal members. And I think that is very key. Faithfulness and loyalty are very key and material to the sustenance of any political tradition. And it therefore behoves of a member of the party to take the necessary steps to reconcile the party. I do not think that any single member of the party is bigger and larger than the party as a whole. Indeed, it's a victory for the party. It's not a victory for any individual, whether the disciplinary committee members or national council members. It's a victory for the party.
Chairman of the NPP's Legal and Constitutional Committee, Professor Michael Kwe, believes the ruling is a sign that all members of the party are subject to the laws of the party.
And it tells you the prevalence of law in all these matters. It's a victory for our party, including even the plaintiff himself, because we don't look at it in a partisan, sectional manner. but so that there will be good order, so that there will be discipline within the party, so that we all know, in fact, from flag bearer down to everybody, that we are all subject to the constitution of our party.
Meanwhile, spokesperson for Paul AFOKO, Nana Yakusi, says they intend to appeal the ruling.
We'll look at the record of proceedings, the judgment, and if, as I indicated, there are some issues we disagree with the judge, and obviously, if we disagree with him, then there's a need for us to go on appeal. Ready to state it until I get the record. Why do we appeal? You appeal because you disagree with the judge.
Joseph Akable, Joy News, Accra.
The Progressive People's Party, the PPP, has announced the introduction of a women's development package and its policy framework for the 2016 elections.
The project, which is part of the party's presidential policy structure, according to its flag bearer, will focus on researching and advising a PPP government on ways to improve the women in our country.
The Women and Resource Development Team, headed by Belinda Bule, is part of a structured team unveiled by the party to tackle specific project areas of the party when voted into office. The team is mandated to provide recommendations on technical know-how, funding and infrastructural assistance to women in the country to improve their productivity in various enterprises. As part of the Women and Resource Enterprise Development Program, the party has identified some communities in the Volta region to support in palm oil and palm kernel oil production. This, according to the party, is one of the many projects to rebuild the capacity of rural women and their enterprises in the country.
We are making a special program, putting a special program for women's enterprise development. There are more women in this country than men. But anytime we put a program together, the men go and grab everything and walk away. We don't want to do the same thing. We want to make sure that the women who represent the majority of people in this country, they have a special program that will provide them with technical assistance. If some need basic bookkeeping help, we'll give them basic bookkeeping help. If some need counseling in terms of how to find a market, we help them with it. If some need some funding, after they've been prepared, you give them funding. But they must go together, not just you spread some monies here and there. Put them all together. So we have a team that is going to concentrate in that area.
The PPP also says it has answers to the country's resource energy challenges, which it describes as arising from financial constraints rather than a technical one. Dr. Indum said under the energy financing team of the policy structure, sources of funding will be sought based on recommendations by the experts.
We are telling Ghanaians, we are telling all the political parties, NDC, MPP, CPP, PNC, everyone, we want them to hear from us loud and clear that we know and believe that the problem of energy in Ghana is not a technical one. Oh, it's not technical. It has to do with cash, money. And the creation of the lack of money, it is a creation of government. And you take it backwards from ECG. Somebody in government takes power from ECG, doesn't pay. So ECG can't pay the one who is transmitting or who is generating the power. Then the person also who is generating the power also has to buy his raw material from somebody else and can't pay. And those debts, they have piled up and they are sitting there and they are weighing our system down.
The presidential policy structure includes the team on constitutional reforms and good governance, public sector reforms, preventable diseases, compulsory and universal education. The rest are agri and food security, economic infrastructure, sports development and technology.
And as part of the Islamic calendar, just after the Hajj and after some weeks, all who are interested to be pilgrim to Saudi Arabia, that's the ultimate kingdom for Muslims, would have to make sure they embark on that very Hajj. And already we're getting indications that the kingdom of Saudi Arabia has now decided to go as far as execute or perhaps prosecute pilgrims who flout the ban on the importation of kola nut into the country.
Well, the directive comes with just about a month to the Muslim pilgrimage to Mecca, which would typically see a lot of would-be pilgrims smuggling the nuts into the kingdom. The National Hajj Board is therefore urging pilgrims to take serious note and avoid falling foul of the law. Here's Deputy Communications Director of the Hajj Board, Mohammed Amin Lamte.
Very well. You know, I believe that what I'm really getting from these current, communique from the Saudi government is that people are leaning on the kola nut to do so many things. Because even here in Ghana, you have people, because we've said no to kola nut, they have a way of cancelling this kola nut into certain items, maybe oil, gallon of oil, where you can see kola nut being actually put into it. You can even see yam. There are so many items, this gari and these things, even maize. People would put kola nut, you will see that this is maize. We have this, our local thing that we use for our local soup that we call kuka. This kuka thing, people would get the kola nut, put it in there. You will see it on the surface, it is normal kuka, but beneath the kuka, there is kola nut there. So you realize that, I think that the Saudi government have realized that there are people who lean on the kola nut and do things that are a bit untoward, that are very questionable. That is why they came out with a straitjacket statement that if you are caught with kola nut, yes, death sentence. So that you need to know that beyond that, if you dare, get into it, it's going to cause you a problem.
And Mohammed Amin Lamte is the Director of Communications, or Deputy Director of Communication for the Hajj Board, and explaining the issues about exporting illegally goro to Saudi Arabia. Goro.
Yeah. Okay, so please don't take it with you if you're planning on embarking on that pilgrimage this year.
Well, we have something we have to tell you.
Yeah?
There's a story in the Daily Mail. With the Daily Mail, we don't have Daily Mail. It's the UK. It talks about an athlete in the Rio Olympics, apparently, who had to just look at the video.
Yeah.
I don't know whether it was deliberate.
Dived.
She was second, or was she not? Or she? Okay.
But I don't get it. Like what?
The headline says that the lady dived for gold, and that is a Bahamas athlete in the 400-meter race. Apparently.
But is that allowed?
It's not as if she can say she fell.
Because
Alison
Felix was going for
it's allowed.
It's allowed.
Because
Charlie.
Yeah, you know her hand touched the place first.
Charlie.
Good.
This will be so painful.
The head. The head have to get there first. And this lady who was crossing the finishing line.
Yeah,
before
Alison Felix. I kind of really like her. She's a
to
very
deny
consistent
Alison Felix, I'm sure, of the US gold.
Oh.
She'll be screaming, this is racism.
But look at her face.
You know this is racism.
Which one is racism?
Black. Racism. Anyway, that's what we're talking about, and we hope that we can bring you a lot more of this when we're reviewing a lot more of the news portals. But before then, we would have looked at what stories there are front and back pages of the various newspapers. You have some comments you want to read?
Yeah, I do have lots of comments, actually. This one says, I want to be educated on this. If you have been born and bred in Ghana, but your father is Nigerian and your mom is a Ghanaian, such a child cannot have Ghanaian passport. I applied for passport since March 2014 in Volta. Till today, they always tell me it's not ready. What should I do because I'm helpless?
Well, it's not ready, not because you are not entitled to a citizenship. Thousands of Ghanaians. I think the media has always been talking about the problems with the passport office and the acquisition of passports. Yeah. So it's not only peculiar to you. It's got nothing to do with you being half Nigerian and half Ghanaian. Indeed, if you were born in Ghana, but your parents perhaps were even Nigerians, you can still claim citizenship. I believe it's in our constitution like that.
Well, that coupled with my own personal issues with the passport office, perhaps we should go back and find out what's happening.
Yeah, you told me you were applying for one. I told you come and see me. Yeah.
See, that's what we're trying to avoid in Ghana. Shouldn't be because I know Roland. All right, this one says the president should stay out of the Muntie 3 saga and concentrates on his campaign. Any movement he makes towards their release may turn out things negatively towards their winning of the hearts of floating voters come December 7th. That's Nana Kane and someone having his say on this.
Right, we hope that you've enjoyed this part of the news, but we'll bring you a lot more detailed publications, front back pages of the newspapers, and then we look like that athlete there on the online portals as well. We should have been crossing the
I mean, like, that's somebody who wanted to cheat.
No, I'm not sure.
I know, because...
So this one, doping, which one?